Chapter 5. Jack removed the man's gun and 2 spare magazines from his belt. He stood, walked through the open doorway, past the elevators, and looked out the wall window. Will followed. The geodesic undulations of the quantum physics building's laminated glass shell, lit from within, illuminated the surrounding grounds. Jack could see masked peace troops down the length of the Founder's Walk. At the end of the path, the ramshackle outline of the protest camp. There, too, idiot-faced men working, searching, carrying the limp forms in teams of 2. Occasionally, single gunshots. "The fuck is going on?" He turned to his brother, his face in accusation. "Paul told me Monarch Innovations was funding the research. Why attack the building? The protesters, where's the cops, the media?" Will struggled to find words. The elevator beat him to it. Ding! Smiley-faced troopers followed into the hallway with practiced precision. Implacable, unfeeling, the first 3 dropping to one knee so the 3 behind them could also take aim. Peace. This is what it felt like for Jack, meeting his death. Colors were richer, smells stronger. Time slowed. Each moment a meal. Some clown had posted a Far Side cartoon to the corkboard that sprawled around one hole in the vending machine shone like chrome. A moment returned from 10 years ago, now clear as day. He had bought a beer from the man he killed. 10 years. The tavern. Jack had finished a late shift delivering pizza. He met Paul at the end of the bar, a spot that smelled equally of hoppy microbrew and acrid wafts from the nearby men's room. He and Paul had a few, and this guy had appeared to let them in on the street. The tavern was named for the owner's love of Dungeons and Dragons. Jack had brought a round. They'd burned maybe a half hour and another round and went their separate ways. He remembered the moment, but he couldn't remember the guy's name. Jack turned his attention to the present. Behind their masks, each of these 6 men with French-made weapons was still human. None of them questioned what they were about to do. Their armor looked so heavy and clean and important. Kevlar-gloved fingers squeezed. Jack said, "Stop!" They did. Jack opened his eyes. His fingers splayed at the end of the outstretched arm. Beyond his fingers, the men frozen in mid-action. Around the men a dome shimmered like water, like the distortion field that had sheathed the time machine. Is it weird that I'm getting comfortable with miracles? Will stood a careful step forward, wrist a closer look. "Do you know what you've done? You have deformed a very localized pocket of the Myers-Joyce field." Will extended a hand toward the shimmering bubble. "Don't touch it! What if it bursts?" Will stopped. "We have to replicate this. Can you do it again?" "Not if these guys wake up. No, we have to." The bubble began to flicker, shimmering. "It's breaking!" Jack turned, snapped 3 shots into the window. Will yelped, and Jack kicked the panel out of its frame. It clattered and skidded off the dome outside. "Out the window!" Will hesitated. Jack grabbed Will, reached into the bubble. It didn't break. He yanked something from the nearest belt. "Go!" He shoved Will toward the window. Jack's brother Will braced against the frame. Behind them, the mini-stutter failed. Jack shouldered Will out the window, then tumbled after, gracelessly, followed by a stream of reanimated bullets. Falling 5 feet, he hit this laminated glass, hard, and then the grenade on the trooper's belt detonated. Screams erupted from inside the building. Will was in his face, terrified. "Are you okay?" "Just glad the glass didn't break." "It's reinforced. How do we get down from here? They're gonna kill us." The canopy was an undulating design that tapered toward the ground to the far side. 300 feet beneath their shoes waited the hard, polished floor of the atrium. 2 panels of glass, reinforced or not, between them in about 2 seconds of terror. Will was transfixed, staring at the ground below with an expression of total horror. "Will! Hey! Will!" Tucking the handgun into the back of his jeans, Jack shook Will by the shoulder. Will reacted violently, stance wide, struggling for balance. "Will, we're fine! We walk across this to the far side, into your car, and we're gone. Easy." Will clearly wasn't convinced. "Come on, this'll be fun." "Fun?" And then, "Oh, this is your coping strategy manifesting again. I understand." I'll go first, you follow. Jack walked 20 feet to the next segmented glass panel, held in place by some ornate geometrical webwork of steel beams. He jumped up and down. Totally safe. Please don't do that. Will took a breath. Followed. The old physics building, that red brick relic of a bygone era, was mostly enclosed by the crystalline shell of the Monarch Innovations quantum physics complex. Only its new top levels jutted above the glass dome, the levels that had the lab and Monarch's time machine. It was from the ground floor of this building that Senior Operative Randall Gibson emerged into the vast dome lobby of the quantum physics complex. On his earpiece was his second-in-command, Donnie, now in charge of the squad Gibson had left in the time lab. Gibson's ear mic pinged. A call from the tower.
Actual to C1. Activate rescue rigs.
Beneath their armor, Gibson's crew wore delicate, wire-embraced filament exoskeletons, wired to the portable chronon battery on their back. Simultaneously slapping a small chrome plate on each hip brought Gibson's battery online. His skin stung sharply along the lines of the wiring.
Donnie, you copy that?
Donnie was a good guy. Gibson had worked with him for years. Easy to get along with. Happiest when taking orders. Reliable in a fight.
Yeah, boss, we're live.
This is what they trained for. Chronon 1 could now move freely. Interruptions to causality flow would have no hold over them.
Actual, C1 is chronon active. Boss, heads up. Getting word. Gunfire on 5th, and Reaper Squad is down. 50% casualties. Looks like a grenade mishap. Are you fucking serious, Don?
Chronon 1 was the only squad on site authorized to deploy rigs. Reaper Squad was filled with regulars. Nothing special, but casualties meant leaving DNA, fiber, evidence. Monarch had the best cleaners in the biz.
Afraid so, sir. You're in charge, Don. I'm overseeing Guardian sanitation run. Buzz me if you need me.
Guardian Squad was hanging out at the atrium. No rigs, no skills. This wasn't how Gibson had imagined his first live Chronon op. Coddling a gang of masked chumps? Fuck this, man. Right in the car. Guardian Squad's CO, a young senior operative, carbine strapped across his chest, saluted as he strolled over like he was still in the Corps. Didn't even take the mask off to do it. Asshole. The light from the double dome superstructure was throwing down crazed shadows that made Gibson's eyes hurt.
Boss!
Donnie piped up over the earpiece.
Be aware, the 2 strays from the time lab aren't among the bodies.
Stupid idea for a building, Gibson thought, taking it all in. A football field's worth of space between here and the other side of the dome. Racks of segways spaced around it just so the civvies could get to the stairs. So fucking inefficient.
Do what we do, Don. Lock it down. They'll be in there.
His eyes traversed the geometrical curvature above him, the inner and outer webwork clashing into still more patterns. Gibson stopped where he was, eyes up. Well, Randall Gibson thought, ain't that something?
Don,
He said.
Look out a window. Hey, Randall.
Guardian CO said, eye on the time.
You ready?
Gibson kept his eye on the ceiling.
Sure. Listen, let me borrow that 6-pack your boy's carrying.
Donnie piped up.
Well, shit, boss. Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? Wait 20 seconds, Don. Then tell me what you see.
Jack and Will had covered about 10 panels, maybe 100 feet, and were making good time. See? No big deal. Close to halfway there and no casualties. No response from Will, so Jack checked behind him. Will? Will was where they started. Eyes screwed shut, frozen on the spot. Will stammered. I can't move, Jack. He looked down. Oh, God. Will, look at me, okay? Straight ahead. Slow and steady steps. Will never finished the sentence. He was staring down, fixated by the glass at his feet. The drop beyond it. Will? His head whipped up, breath snagged in his throat, and suddenly, Will was running right at him.
Whoop.
Gibson muttered, tracking the grenade launcher's barrel across the underside of the dome.
We got a rabbit.
40mm grenades have a casualty radius of about 130 feet, so Guardian Squad had hunkered themselves behind the info stand. Gibson had positioned himself as far away from his target as possible, firing at an angle. Mama Gibson didn't raise no dummy. Gibson sighed and pulled the trigger. The M32 kicked with a satisfying thunk. Will sprinted straight for Jack. Will, it's cool, real... 3 glass panels 30 feet behind his brother shocked white as the entire superstructure smashed into the underside of their feet. Jack was knocked on his ass, the handgun striking sharp against his tailbone, ankles and shins racked with splintering pain. Will left the surface completely, arms pinwheeling, and came down hard, smashing into the glass. Jack couldn't hear himself shout, "What the fuck was that?" He couldn't hear anything. Will was hyperventilating, scrambling to his feet, but something was wrong. His feet wouldn't take his weight. Jack's own feet and legs were a riot of tingling excruciation. His bones burned. Face down as he was, pressed into the glass dome, he saw what was happening below. A smiley-faced squad taking cover behind a curved information desk and bare-headed trooper with a 6-shot rotary grenade launcher, eyeballing Will with the happiest expression Jack had ever seen on a human face. Cordite stench and hot glass particles settled into the atrium. Gibson rolled his shoulders, cricked his neck, and sighted up a second shot. Gibson called out his next shot to Donnie.
See if I can pinball him to the roof. Damn, boss, you know I could just shoot him from here. Don't you dare. I got me 5 shots left.
Thunk! Jack struggled to his aching feet. Will, get up! If Will's body was pressed to the surface when the next one hit, it could scramble his organs. Get up! Will did. Sort of. With a desperate heave, he got his body off the glass as a section of panels to his left took the hit, knocking him sideways. Jack watched his brother flail, collapse, and slide, his fingers dragging across the glass. He was close to the curve. It was gentle, but another blast like that would send him flying over the edge, 300 feet down to the university lawn. Gibson hitched his lip, dissatisfied.
I got a better idea.
He switched targets. Thunk! Jack got halfway to Will, then the shockwave hit, blowing him backward. Gibson retargeted. Thunk! Both brothers shouted as the panel section behind Will that had taken the first grenade hit took a second. Thick, reinforced glass volcanoed upward. The ejecta from the expulsion tinkled delicately as it rained in heavy, jagged fistfuls across the dome. Punch-drunk and battered, Jack struggled to interpret the world around him through the senses that had traded places with one another. He smelled pain, felt brightness, heard fear. The world was 2 images skating atop one another. His head was an endlessly sounding dial tone. He stood on the hot crystal moon that sweated dollops of melted polycarbonate. The atmosphere was warm and poisonous. His eyes didn't work. His brother was on his feet, back on top, away from the curve, away from Jack. Will was also standing on unreliable feet, low and unsteady. Jack said his brother's name. Will seemed to realize that he was not alone in this place and recognized his brother. He extended a hand like a child wanting to be lifted from dock to boat. The 5th round struck exactly between them. Jack flew one way, Will toward the freshly blasted hole in the dome. Gibson hooted, long and loud, as the body flipped a low arc through the night air and through the ragged wound in the double dome.
Whew! Hole in one, son!
Jack's perception of time slowed. He reached for Will. Futile as it was, wanting him back and safe more than he had ever wanted anything in his life. His boots gripped the hardened polycarbonate, breaking his backward flight, and he kicked off, launching himself toward Will, crossing the space between them impossibly in a heartbeat. The world stopped. Jack ran and the world restarted a moment too soon. Inches from Jack's grasp, Will's body fell through the jagged maw of the dome's wound. Watching him fall, Jack's every thought became a singular, "No." The air around his brother's limp body buckled, inverted, and snapped. Jack skidded, stumbled, kept his footing. Will floated 25 feet below the wounded dome, suspended inside a mini-stutter of Jack's creation.
Monarch Actual, this is Senior Operative Gibson at the Quantum Physics Building. Boss? Shut up, Don. You there, Actual? Actual here. What is it, Senior Operative?
Gibson eyeballed the space-time distortion filling most of the hole. He had blasted through 8 layers of sandwich polycarbonate.
Actual. At least one of the 2 escapees from the time lab are chronon active. Natively. Say again? They're live, Actual. Teleporting. No rescue rig. No striker tech. Target spontaneously manifested an MJ field deformation with intent. Check the feeds.
Gibson slugged the M32 over his shoulder, returned to Guardian CO,
Good luck.
and walked out the door. Will's body was an arc, eyes to the stars, mouth open in a silent exclamation. Fragments of heated polycarbonate and acrid smoke were suspended inside the bubble with him, a 3-dimensional portrait frozen in a sphere of paused time. He had fallen wide of the hallway that connected the 4th floor of the old science building to the admin facility on the other side. When the stutter broke, Will would fall 270 feet to the lobby floor. The 6 smiley-faced goons on the floor below were done being impressed. Jack dropped through the shattered dome without a thought, straight into the mini-stutter. Jack's feet connected with Will's chest, with 0 give. Jack balanced there, above the drop, surfing his brother in midair. Don't wake up, don't wake up, don't wake up! It had been a calculated bet. Will held. The squad opened up. Jack flinched in 100 million rounds of vip, vip, vip at the impact of the stutter, and caught leaving the outside of the sphere stippled with the lead acne. The squad reloaded. Gibson's playdate with 5 rounds of 40 Mike had the attention of pretty much everybody. Monarch's regular squads had done a good job of preemptively securing the neighborhood. Nothing was getting in or out. But now, encrypted comms chatter was rattling off sightings of media closing in by the road and air. Civvies were congregating on main thoroughfares. It was a cowboy move, lighting up the dome like that. But orders were orders. Monarch wanted a peace movement to make an impression. Consider it made. His earpiece pinged. Mr. Gibson. Shit!
Receiving, Mr. Hatch.
Guardian tells me you're responsible for the chaos I'm witnessing. Is that correct?
More than likely, sir.
Gibson was marching toward the last remaining Bearcat. One of a couple Monarch had assigned to university security 6 months ago in preparation for the strike. A plausible story about keys stolen from dead guards was ready for the media. The vehicle was still idling on the lawn. Almost all other Monarch forces had been reassigned to crowd control on 4-pointed perimeter. He muted his mic, put 2 fingers in his mouth, and ripped a sharp whistle. The pair manning the Bearcat, one on the MG, the other stretching his legs, acknowledged with a salute. Explain yourself. Mic on.
I was given orders to make a scene. The scene has been made.
Mic off. I need your ride. You are aware that one of the men you attempted to kill is considered a high-valued asset? We need him alive. The gunner dismounted as Gibson climbed into the cab.
The skinny guy?
Dr. William Joyce, a pioneer in chronon theory and the originator of much of the technology you've been trained to use. Hatch confirmed something on the other line. Guardian tells me both targets remain miraculously alive.
Sir, I consider it a miracle that Guardian is reporting at all.
The engine woke with a satisfying thud beneath his feet, soundless inside the cab.
Now I'm returning forthwith to render them the benefit of my wisdom and experience.
1 round left. The Bearcat spat dirt and leaped forward toward the dome. Jack leaped to the walkway and reached inside the stutter. His hand penetrated the sparkling cloud and closed around his brother's ankle. He admitted, have no idea what I'm doing. Jack drew back his arm. Will didn't budge. How had he done it the first time? What had he been feeling? Thinking? Jack closed his eyes, pulled gently, and still Will remained fixed. Come on, Will! He tried again, imagined Will as a black and white image, Technicolor soaking into him from Jack's hand. Something warm impacted against Jack's arm. A short sound snapped from Will's throat. Ah! Some of the shattered glass was beginning to drop. Pause. Drop. Will's exclamation was an erratic, sometimes rewinding stutter. Jack could smell cordite. The bubble was breaking. Fuck Technicolor. Jack yanked and Will slid heavily out of the deformation. The stutter cracked and failed. Half the glittering pounds of hot glass clattered back into the atrium. 100 loose rounds rapid smacked into the already wounded dome. With Jack's grip tight on his feet, Will cleared the gap, shoulder blades and head thwacking on the guardrail. He hit the floor, hard. It hurt, but he was alive. He had no idea what had happened. As far as he was concerned, the ground heaved suddenly. Jack had materialized next to him, and now he was... I can't keep... Jack's head hurt for him. Will was not good at reality, and this was way too real. From downstairs, someone bellowed,
Dr. Joyce!
Will hesitated. Do they mean me? Jack let Will figure it out.
Dr. Joyce, are you in good health, sir?
Jack peered through a gap in the burnished metal sheet that was the main feature of the guardrail. 5 goons and their commander had weapons trained on the walkway. Not good. No! Will called back. You shit!
Sir, there's been a misunderstanding. We have paramedics on standby.
Why are you here? Jack interrupted. Mark owns this place, owns this lab. The research, the people, why do this?
Sir,
the commander said.
Jack.
Fuck you!
We have paramedics on standby. He can get you clear of the incident in minutes.
From the top floor of the building, Don had a clear vantage down to the lobby. With one finger pressed to the mic in his ear, he said,
Dr. Joyce is to the left. His brother's to the right. Aim right, 2 feet above the deck.
Jack, still peering through the gap in the guardrail, saw every trooper shift aim to his side of the barricade. Sons of bitches! Pulling himself into the cocoon of a single second, Jack sprang from cover, leaped down the stairs, and slammed into the 4th floor guardrail. To the eyes of everyone else under that dome, Jack had teleported. From his new position 1 floor down, he watched as time re-engaged. Jack's side of the steel plate was perforated by a sparking fusillade, sending Will recoiling. Jack tried to expand another moment, to make it to the 3rd floor, but it wouldn't come. Well, those powers I had may have been a phase I was going through. Will said. Possibly you overdid it? Jack pulled the handgun from the back of his jeans. The last time he had used it, it burned like a brand in his memory. Shame so real it felt like it might end him. Through the gap in the guardrail, through the glass dome, past the trees of Founder's Walk. The Monarch logo burned bright atop the new tower that looked over the sleepy, unimportant town he had grown up in, the town they had all grown up in. In his mind's eye, he saw the dome explode upward. He saw the smile on that bastard's face as he watched Will fall to his death. Fuck it. Jack racked the slide and came up shooting. 3 snaps, 1 hit sending a lone trooper spinning behind cover as the rest of the squad ducked. A volley of semi-automatic gunfire tore Jack's cover to shreds as he leaped down the stairs, sparks tracking the underside of the stairwell. Time slowed. Back in business. Jack zipped for the 3rd floor guardrail, knocked his hip into it, and rebounded down the next stairwell. He was up right behind 2nd floor cover and blasting as the moment caught up to him. This time, his aim was better. The moment danced with him, movement and responses becoming as predictable as minutes and seconds. He sighted and fired cleanly. 3 troopers went down, slugs smacking into the chest plates, punching through one leering yellow mask. The remaining squatty took cover, but the commander didn't. Jack had lingered a moment too long, and Guardian CO let his weapon shout itself empty. As predictable as minutes and seconds. Not quite enough, though. A channel of air by Jack's chest and face pulsed like hot artery, and as reflex and panic threw him backward down the stairwell, 1 slug took a piece out of Jack's left arm. Rotating with force of it, Jack crashed down the 1st floor stairwell like a sack of spare parts. His pistol skidded over the side, clattering to the lobby floor. Guardian CO moved forward, unhurried, the yellow mask smiling as he reloaded. His grin twin, the last standing squatty, flanked around the right side of the information desk, weapon leveled. The CO motioned the squatty to advance up the stairs. The squatty moved up, the CO closed behind. When the space around him tremble snapped, trapping both him and the barrel of the CO's assault weapon. The CO wasn't a small man, but there was no withdrawing his rifle. It was frozen in space, as surely as if the barrel had been set in concrete. Jack walked down the stairs, holding his wounded arm, blood trailing from his fingers. The CO abandoned the weapon, drew his sidearm, and backed away. He had learned enough in the last few minutes to know that firing was a waste of time until the bubble popped. Jack stepped into the stutter and took the CO's rifle for himself. The trapped CO tensed his arm, smiling face doing a poor job of disguising the panic beneath. From inside the bubble, Jack emptied the mag into him. The ex-Marine disappeared backward over the information desk in a spray of blood, ending his life with feet in the air like bad slapstick. Jack dropped the rifle, took its replacement from the squattie's static hands. The stutter burst, the squattie almost overbalancing as he lurched forward, then realizing his gun had vanished. He took things in quickly, his missing weapon now in the hands of his target, and his CO's legs sticking up from behind a blood-spattered welcome desk.
Get out of here!
The squattie backed away, hands up, turned, and ran. Will! Will, you okay? Will was already at the 3rd floor. No more, Jack. Your abilities are completely untested. Will made it to the lobby, panting. I want to go home. Once the adrenaline wears off, I intend to throw up. Still gasping. Your arm. You wounded? I'm okay. It's not as bad as it looks. Right now, it was a little more than a shallow tear. Too much blood for a cut so trivial. You've healed. And rapidly. Your relationship to time has changed. There's no doubt. Will moved for the western exit, and the parking lot beyond. None of which will save you from massive organ trauma if someone wounds you correctly. Dead is dead. Bear that in mind. Will was right about the adrenaline. Jack's teeth were grinding. Thoughts more complex than find the car, leave, were tripping over each other. They needed to get out of there. He couldn't keep this up much longer. He had nothing else in him. Without warning, the double doors shredded off their aluminum frames, infodesk blowing to shrapnel. The salvo didn't come close to hitting the two brothers, but it got their attention. Someone on Founder's Walk cut loose with a roof-mounted .50 caliber. Hey, you boys weren't about to leave. It was him, the guy who led the attack on the time lab, the one the other called Boss, the guy wearing the happy grin as he had blown the roof off from underneath Will. He dismounted the Bearcat, took a cigarette from a sleeve pocket and snapped open a Zippo, cupped the light with his hands, drew a deep, healthily lungful. Jack, Will said, come on, the car's this way, we can... Wait here. Will grabbed Jack's arm. Wait here. Jack shrugged him off. Will wasn't accepting it. Do not go out there. We can fix all of this. But I have to... Fix? You heard them shooting out there? How many people have they killed? You saw what... Jack, it wasn't your fault. The ferocity in his voice surprised Jack. What wasn't my fault? The guard, your school friend, attacking this man won't... But Jack was gone. Blink. The cigarette fell from Gibson's lips. Oh! Donnie! Go! 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 The target had separated from the asset, covering ground like Gibson had only seen under controlled conditions. Jack rematerialized outside the dome's double door, the one Gibson had machine-gunned into Art. Looked like the kid had one more burst in him. Gibson swung the M32, aimed wide. Thunk! Jack took off, watched the grenade ride a contrail of propellant off to the right, toward the dome wall behind him. He covered 80 feet, maybe more, before the round detonated. The blast wave almost caught up to him in slow motion, and then time woke up. The force belted him flat in the back, took him for a short ride, and smashed him chest first into the Bearcat's anti-ballistic geometry. The Joyce kid was lying face up in the dirt, sucking wind. Gibson took out his sidearm. Kid, feel like guessing what some of my favorite things to do is? Choking, gasping. That dance from Silence of the Lambs? He willed time to invert and pop, protecting himself inside a bubble of time, out of time. Nothing happened. Nah, Gibson said. This. The gunshot cracked. A sledgehammer came down, and Jack's left knee erupted. Jack watched it happen from some cold place above his left shoulder, like it was happening on television. The reprieve lasted 2 seconds before every nerve and pain receptor in his body lit up and he screamed. For starters, Gibson wondered if his cigarette was still around somewhere.
Actual, this is Gibson. Target is neutralized. Donnie, what's the sitch? We got the scientist, boss. He just about shit when we last grenade hit. You could have warned us. Get him to the library. The big man wants a word. Copy.
Jack's mind was an animal mess. A howling, confused, red strobe darkness. He wanted escape. He wanted to kill this man. He wanted to go home. He wanted his brother. He and his brother, in that old living room. He realized Never gonna be using this leg again. Gibson's earpiece blipped. The frequency switched remotely.
Senior Operative, good evening.
Gibson knew that voice. The face behind Monarch's face. The consultant.
Gibson receiving.
If the consultant was on the line, things were almost certainly going to achieve an undesirable level of complication.
Mr. Hatch tells me you've neutralized the target. Meaning? Meaning I was about to help him with his blood pressure.
Head lolling, Jack tried to take an interest in his surroundings, but the grass felt so good. Will, he'd fucked up. Why hadn't he listened to his brother? What was it Will had said? Don't go out there. We can fix all this. No. Before that.
Do not.
The consultant said to Gibson.
Secure him. A Chronon containment team will be on the scene shortly.
Gibson did not like that. This kid was Chronon active. Taking him down, unassisted, had been balls and luck on Gibson's part. He'd only succeeded because the target had no idea what he was doing. A seasoned Chronon operative was more than capable of fucking a body up given half a chance. Jack reached deeper. What had Will said? You've healed, and rapidly. That was it.
ETA? 5 minutes.
The blood-soaked fabric of Jack's jeans was cleaning itself. The stain crawling back to the hole in his leg, focusing to a point, retreating back into his devastated flesh, just before shattered cartilage self-assembled into a working joint. The lips of the wound quivered, vacillated, and closed shut seamlessly. I'd say your relationship to time has changed, Will had told him. The bullet hole stitched itself shut. Jack's eyes fluttered. Your name's Gibson, he rasped. Jack locked eyes with him, and Gibson saw a short future of nothing but eyeshine and blood.
Affirmative, sir.
Gibson was already moving, hands gripping the Bearcat's roof before swinging double-booted into the cabin and locking it tight behind him. The engine woke. Headlights flared, and the target was right there, staring at him over the hood, back from the dead. Gibson flipped him the bird and threw the truck into reverse.